Welcome everyone. This is video number 7, and in this video we will be talking about UI. Let me open this one. Common UI strategies. The title is the UI directives and data grids, and inside that we will be talking about common UI strategies, directives, and some other items related to that. And also we will be finalizing the wiring up of our menu to properly route us to the navigational pages. So in that regard, let me open the project. And if you remember from the previous videos, we have here our framework, we have our menu items. So I actually added a couple of menu items here and specify their routes. And then what I did on app.js file, if you see, this was the code which we were using earlier to perform the routing using ng-route. But actually we wanted to use our framework events, this menu item click events which are captured in our framework to route us accordingly. So I have created this. Let me open this one, make this a little bit bigger. I have created this app route config.js file, and here I define all my routes. So if you compare this one with this structure, it's not that much of different from this one. So I have defined an array of routes, and here I have some object properties URL, and in configuration I am defining template URL. This is one way. In the other one, I define the URL along with the controller and template URL. And third and fourth, I will explain later. So this is how you can define various kind of routing. And at the end, I am iterating over this array, and I'm calling this when function. And also the otherwise I define this way. So it is actually performing this one in the end. But now it is being done. It will be set up by our events. So we define all the routes here. So this area is no longer needed. We still have this URI endpoint address in our app.run on the root scope. So in the framework, when we capture this event, I added this location service. This is provided by Angular. I injected it here in constructor. On the path, I am calling data.route, and which will actually perform our routing. So we are routing on our dart scope on handler, event handler. So if you remember from previous videos, we have here our customer folder. Inside here we have controller and HTML. This we prepared in a couple of videos back. So this is as it is, and now it is associated here on the second route, this one. Home page is simple, just showing home page, one string only, nothing there, and this is was showing. And also on the customer template, customer.html, I actually made some changes. And so this is our title area of the page. Here I have some button to simulate this add functionality, and I'm using ng-repeat to set up this table. Inside this table, I'm using ng-repeat to show individual record along with their buttons, action buttons. So if I run this one as it now, so we are by default on our home page, and we got this home page. If I go to this customers, so this is what we actually performed in the couple of previous video. I just styled them now in this way, and you can see here, this is the way we can generate a customer sort of data grid, if we can say, which allow us to perform add, edit, delete functionality. And we actually saw this one, that this load functionality is happening when the page is loading. but we don't have still edit and delete functionality. And I mentioned previously that this kind of structure is already explained many times on many online good videos. So, and also on Angular website you can see this one. So you can actually do one thing. You can this is the point actually I wanted to talk about: UI. We want to set up our UI, how much effort we want to put here. So but we have full control here, that we can create this whole grid by ourselves, wiring up different kind of ng click handlers to perform various operations. Definitely we might need a search bar here. When user type something, we want to filter this area using a filter, we can do that one simply on ng repeat, and the filter attribute directive there to filter out to the matching string and achieve this functionality, control this one in our controller. But again, is it important right now to spend all this time to figure out this thing, how to do it? And actually, as I mentioned, at this point, if you want, you can simply take any other existing online sample which show you how to build up a grid using Angular, and you just need to wire up this one here in our framework in this area, and it should perform, because we just have created a shell of the application which allowing us to plug in every kind of thing we wanted. So this was the one way. And assuming, let's say we have done this functionality all, which actually I'm not going to do. This I don't want to spend a lot of time to do this thing, which is just a UI representation, and not the it does not actually focuses on solving the business domain problems. So why not use some third party available tool which actually does this job, and saves us a lot of time to set up this whole grid functionality. In that regard, actually, it's up to you how you want to do it. You can go ahead, build this whole thing, or you can take this example. For example, there is this nice tool available, UI Grid, which works very well with the Angular, and they have very nice tutorial and very nice features available, feature-rich grid system. And it actually allow you to how to use this. You can import simple this module in your app, and via using some simple settings in your controller. For example, on this example, this is the grid area, and this is the directive, UI Grid directive, and you are providing one object, something like that. And at the end, whatever this object contains, we will see this one. You are getting this, if you see here, this grid. And this is actually something which is already available. It's free of charge for this case, for UI Grid case. And you can go ahead and use this one. So if I see in app.js, this is the controller, and here we are setting up this object, which is actually an array, and it is working. So you can go through this documentation, read it, and see how you can incorporate. You have many examples. You can change the view here, for example, and you can grasp as much as you need it. It's up to you how you want to, how complex your UI gets. But the idea is simple, that you can use some existing directive and do it, bring this functionality to your application. I will not spend much time in this kind of UI related task, which actually I'm otherwise we will be definitely talking about then totally the same thing, which is already has been done a lot of time. So I will actually speed up this process via using DevExtreme grid, the HTML5 widgets. And they have a long list. Actually, DevExtreme is not free. Like UI Grid, it is free. I don't know that they have MIT license. I don't know for MVC controls. They definitely, there is a license fees. For HTML widgets, I have no idea, because I don't know. But you can download definitely their trial version for 1 month. Then you have to otherwise pay them for the licensing, and you can see all this on their website. And they have very nice documentation and demos available, which actually help you to quickly get started. At the same time, I would like to point out that we have similar kind of functionality in Kendo UI, and they have their own similar kind of thing, because these are the same idea. Maybe the construction is a little bit different, but as far as I can see that it is showing me a similar kind of structure, and how I can set up the things, it's up to me. They have also very nice, and it would be nice to actually set up one grid in Kendo and one grid in DevExtreme and one in UI grid, and based on some real-time data or huge data, check, make the performance checks. But again, we are not here for, to check all these things. I'm going to use this DevExtreme just because I'm much familiar about it. You can use any one of these or build your own from the zero. It's up to you. And I will actually not even go in the details of this grid. You have to just understand that all this thing is happening via some controller objects. And internally, when you bring this dev extreme module in your application, using which we already was bringing from the first of videos, so you have this functionality available. Now it's up to you how you can do it. So moving back, having talked about all this, so we will be definitely for UI tasks, I will be time to time using this dev extreme control. They have a lot of other ones, like Kendo also have a lot of other ones. And UI grid and Angular UI bootstrap you can use if you simply want to do it in a classic way, and up to you. Anyway, moving on from here, now so this was our customer.html page, what we created in the previous videos. I will close this. And if I came to my route, I have one route defined here, clients. And on the config section, I'm just using template, and I create a custom directive here. I'm going this way directive. I want to use this one as a directive, and actually I'm a fan of using directives. So you can read about directives online and how they work, or what's the benefit of using them anyway. So here I'm encapsulating all the functionality of this customer's thing, and because this customer actually if you see, compare this one, I create a directive folder. I have here one clients folder, and here this is my directive definition. I'm associating the template URL and controller. I have this app clients controller, and this is and if you see this one, this is almost the same code I copied, but the properties are changed. Now it's client.id instead of customers. So this is, I just encapsulated this whole functionality. The markup of HTML is almost identical. Directive definition is now introduced, and I added the client's controller, and they are the same function. Actually, they are calling the same endpoint of our app URI clients, and in customer, I was using the same client's endpoint and was taking this data and display that one as a customers. But actually, so this one now correctly customers binding, and then we can use this directive because this is our camel case as a snake case here as a part of our template. So how it is done actually, if you see here, so homepage, customers, and this is our directive clients, the first one. This is almost same thing. Again, I just encapsulated this functionality in directive. And this dev streams component, they are also actually directives. So what I did in the third one, I used here, and let me show you this one first, so you have an idea how it differs. In the third one, this is using DevExtreme grid, data grid directives. And see, we have here a nice grid available, and all of this functionality, actually, if you see, if I click John Doe, okay, John, Jake, so searching is there, and there is a functionality of column chooser. You can hide, so IDs was hidden, you can bring it back, you can move the column around. So you have to build this functionality yourself, and I'm just using that framework just to get all this functionality ready-made available, because these are the common tasks. So column chooser is available. I can use click add button. I have a nice form to add the screen. You have to build this one using UI modal search service. That's not that difficult, but again, I wanted to use this one. So We have title, we have save, cancel button, and we have some date time picker available. We can talk about it later. There are also dev extreme widgets. If I click edit, so bringing that data, pulling that data up, I did not do anything to do this thing. This is automatically happening via dev extreme grid. And I will show you how I configure this thing. I can click delete, I can click yes, okay, I can click edit, and I can hide show buttons. So this is actually, and one thing more, if you see there are 3 rows, this is the button export. I click export all data. We have possibility of selected one, but let's try export all data. And I have this nice Excel sheet available to download my data. So that's why I didn't want to reinvent this whole functionality myself. I simply used it. And how this is done, this is actually DX clients. I'm using this directive. So I have a separate directive here. So our framework is, we can do anything we like. So this directive itself, let's see the markup first. I have the page view title, which is actually like the other directives as well. Okay, and below this I have this div. This is actually my grid. So it has a class, client's grid container. I'm giving it a class, and if you see this CSS, it has height and width property, nothing special. And this is the dev extreme directive data grid, and we are passing this data grid options. And what is this data grid option? If we see its controller, this is this variable on my scope, which is actually holding everything. So if you came to this is actually, again, this is not the tutorial to show you how to use this data grid or thing like that. You can come to this dev extreme site, and you can see here they have this nice example. And actually you can work with a variety of data source like local data stores, web APIs, OData services, based on your scenario. So you have Ajax, OData, custom data store, which I am actually using custom data store, web API service, and here are some example of ASP.NET MVC helper they are using, but actually we are setting up this one ourselves. So this actually, all this is explained very well here. So I'm not going into detail of how to set up this grid. You can check everything. You can see how to perform editing. So this was the pop-up editing, which I incorporated actually inside there. So this is actually, see, none of this written by me. So I just wired up this whole process, this data grid inside my application. So grid options, actually here, I am defining a custom store, my store. This is my store, which is actually the way I'm using a custom store. And I have my URI, which is actually I'm constructing via root scope API URI clients. You remember our web API endpoint is this one. And I here defined the load, insert, update, delete. And actually this is what I am using the URL way. Otherwise there are other ways as well. And here I defined the data grid. Actually, this is, if you see, this is similar to the what we had already for when we were looking at Angular. So they have their own grid options, and that's for the dev extreme as well. And similar thing is, I guess, for the Kendo UI as well. So I'm defining the edit form, or that it should allow edit, update, delete, what should be the info, search panel, and columns, data types, and paging. All this thing is available on their website. You can see it there. So at the end, what I got from there when I incorporated this one, so I have this nice grid available, and it is actually so the thing is, so far we are pulling the data from our web API, we are displaying it, and we are then performing delete operation, edit, and this is actually normal CRUD operation. So I have provided all these methods on my web API. So, and if you remember, we are using in-memory database. So I can definitely will populate this database a lot more records, and we will grow this one. So currently we are not wired up with any kind of SQL Server or any persistent technology. We are not currently doing this, and it's saving us a lot of time. And now we are using same thing for the front end, that we are not concerned about setting up this grid ourselves, and we are saving this time here as well, and we can then actually extend on our actual domain problem and tackle those. Uh, and we will go through some new ideas of ASP.NET Core dependency injections. We will talk about repositories, and we will see how all these things come together. So if you remember from our video, for examples, we were using this full name. This is returned by our web API. And if you see this column, this is full name calculated. So this dev extreme actually allow you, this is feature from it. And actually this is another idea that if you want to do this processing, this is same thing. I'm setting up this full name, but I'm using doing this one on client side, and how it is being done is actually just here, this column definition that I'm saying its caption is this one. These are the property, and calculated set value is just operating on my two parameter properties or fields of the data, which is actually coming from, if you remember, from client web API endpoint, and joining them with the empty space, and that's it. This is being done on the client side. So you can distribute the functionality there. I don't have anything on the endpoint and in my domain model birthday, but I wanted to show you the data type, how data type picker will be applied here, and also alignment. So you can set these properties. All this information is available online. And let me just comment this out, because they are just here for demo purposes and not actually part of our domain model. So this is how I set up this grid, and everything is now wired up. So we have 3 records, we can edit, our date time fields are gone, we can see, and our filtering is working, and actually we can enable filter on individual columns and change the icons to some other thing. And but again, anyway, that's not that extreme demo. So thank you very much for watching this video. Hope this whole idea is clear to you. And at this point now onward, if you want to go to use some Angular UI component, bootstrap component, go ahead. But for onward further things, I actually will be focusing more on the component interactions, but less on the implementation details. That this is actually the last, this is you can give it to some UI developer, or you can do it yourself, and I will definitely be using now onward the dev extreme controls. Yeah, but the idea is same. If you can understand the main general idea, it's then no matter which technology you use to implement the front end. Angular is simply nicely, we are using the same scoping and everything there. We will be definitely building up this, adding these items here more and more. We will be definitely, I will be experimenting time to time based on the nature that some of the controls here, like for example maps, I don't know a lot of things already shown already. For example, this Google Map integration is very easy, Bing and Google Maps integrations. And we can actually, instead of go to gauges and see this data binding, that how we can get runtime data and then evolve our show this one on our dashboard module or anywhere on the page. But definitely this will be the display part of what we will be, and there will be some processing on the server side. Thank you very much again, and see you next time. Bye bye.